Tonight we bring you one of our series of interviews with candidates in this year's September primary election, which is being held on Thursday, September 6th. Our guest is one of 4 Democrats running for an open seat on the Governor's Council in District 2. He's also a resident of Hyde Park. We'd like to welcome Patrick McCabe. Thank you very much for being with us, Patrick.
Thank you.
I mentioned Hyde Park, but talk about which parts of the city are in this district, because we're talking about several other neighborhoods.
Well, it's mostly Rosendale, part of Hyde Park, and then West Roxbury. Those are the sections of the city that are part of this district.
How did you get interested in running for this office?
Well, I've been an advocate in the court for a number of years, and that led to my going to the Governor's Council meetings. I've been going to council meetings on and off for the past 4 years, and I've gotten to have a relationship with the councilors up there. The Governor's Council is the process by which we vet our judicial nominations. When I went up there, I was concerned that this was the only part of the process that was part of the public record, and I was concerned that not enough of a public record was being made. So I've been working with the councilors just to put more on the record as to who these people are, so that people can have a better understanding of why they're getting these lifetime appointments.
Along with making sure we know more about the kind of people who get confirmed as judges, was there a particular issue that you were especially interested in when you started going to all these meetings?
When I was first involved, I was an advocate trying to help parents who had difficulty seeing their children. They were usually going through some kind of divorce process, and it was very surprising to me how difficult it was for people who have committed no crimes, basically done nothing wrong, but got involved in a lot of paperwork that made it difficult for them to see their own children. So that was the issue that first brought me to viewing the courts and seeing how we can improve them.
Well, talk about your background, and especially what there is in your background that would make you qualified to sit on that council.
My background is I am an accountant, and I also do computer programming, so that part of the background doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. It's my advocacy with the courts, and also my interest in the court process. Like a lot of people, through the new media, you can get your daily feeds from the courts to see the cases that are being decided. There was also a project here at BU, the Open Court Project, which gave everybody the opportunity to see how our district courts work. After I had been an advocate for parents, I realized there are problems with our courts that aren't really known to the public because of the reporting that goes on. So I was interested in finding out about issues that are in each of our courts that need some improvement, and our courts do need some improvement, and I think it helps with the openness and transparency through the media.
Well, there are some appointments that still divide opinions. Lately there's this case of Kenneth Salinger, who has been working in the Attorney General's office. He wants to be appointed a judge. Talk about that case, the way you see it at least.
I was at the meeting last year, and of course the whole hearing is online at my website, so if anybody has any questions about that, they can go see it. The concern appeared to be about his donations to Emily's List and Move On, I think, were the 2 organizations that the people who spoke against him were very concerned. I think it had to do with what they thought were his political views and whether his political views would affect what he would do on the court. Now, his position was a superior court, so it wasn't a higher court that really would make changes in policy. But nonetheless, because of his political views, some people were very unhappy with it. It's a public hearing. They have a right to express whatever view they want to, but I don't know that those aspects are of particular concern. The counselors themselves did have issues with him. He had filled out an application which a number of counselors pointed out was the most arrogant application that they had ever read. The public doesn't get to see those applications because that's part of what they're still keeping private from the public. So as to what he wrote that was brought to the attention of the counselors, we don't really know, but it was enough that more than one counselor mentioned that they were concerned about his attitude. If
you were on the council, how would you feel? What would you do?
Well, I would want to read the questionnaire first of all, so I would understand what they were talking about. The Superior Court is an interesting court because from what I've heard by going to these meetings, there don't appear to be a lot of complaints about the Superior Court. You know, regardless of who you put up there, the real concern is how they perform once they're up there. if you have a court where no one's complaining about it, you can almost put anyone up there, because it seems to show that they have an ability to train the people, that once they get on the bench, they do the job well and everybody's happy with it. There are courts where there are a lot of complaints about the behavior from the justices, and those are the courts that I'm more concerned with, the places where we clearly do have problems.
Well, talk about the issue that you've been concerned about, which is, I guess, in terms of family custody decisions and support orders. How would you determine that a judge is qualified to be fair and thorough?
Well, what we have in our family courts right now are courts that want to take custody away from one parent or the other, and has very little to do with our laws, which requires that you act in the best interest of the children. All of the studies that exist say that the best interest of the children is keeping both parents as actively involved in the child's life as possible. Our courts don't behave in that manner, and that would be my concern if they're aware of what it means to act in the best interest of the children, and that is by keeping both parents as involved as possible, presuming, of course, that both parents are capable and fit parents, which they are in most cases. I think that would be a change in what our court is currently doing, and I think that's would be my concern on that particular court. But there are other courts as well.
Coming back to Kenneth Salinger, part of his history, his support, as you mentioned, Move On and Emily's List, and he did some legal work in behalf of overturning Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in the military. Do you think those are things that should disqualify him from being appointed the judge?
Well, for the work that he did, he was doing the work for his boss, and if you're doing the work for the boss and you do it well, I don't think you should be criticized for it. If it was work that he wanted to do on his own, all that shows is his particular views. I don't think that means you're going to be a good or a bad judge. You may have concerns about it, but I don't think that should disqualify you. It's all about your ability to do the work of basically refereeing a case that comes before you in a court.
All right, and we should mention, if people want to know about your campaign, you've got a website where they can check that out?
At Patrick McCabe, governorscouncil.com, where it has a lot of information about me and the Governor's Council as well. Thank
you very much for being with us. Patrick McCabe, candidate in the Democratic primary for Governor's Council in District 2.